Tropical storm Milton has formed in the Gulf of Mexico and is expected to become a powerful hurricane that will make landfall in Florida as we go later into this upcoming work week. And this could be something that is really dangerous, including the potential for significant storm surge, hurricane force winds, and more flooding rainfall that Florida does not need. So we are going to break down every aspect of what we can expect with Tropical Storm Milton and why this is so concerning, especially since this could make landfall near the Tampa Bay area. Let's begin with what Tropical Storm Milton looks like, and this right here is Tropical Storm Milton. It is currently located in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. It is moving to the east, but very slowly. It's not going to move very fast until probably about Monday or Tuesday once it picks up speed and moves towards the state of Florida, leaving it in a very favorable environment for development. But for the time being, this is a very low-end tropical storm, maximum sustained winds at 40 miles per hour. But over the next 24 to 48 hours, we are expecting this to intensify rather quickly as it moves towards the east. This is a closer view on infrared imagery. For right now, a lot of the deep convection that we were seeing this morning has been fizzling out, but we are expecting later this evening to see more convection start to try to wrap around the center of low pressure. And once that happens, we are expecting this to intensify gradually through Sunday and then potentially rapidly intensify as we go into Monday. One of the most concerning trends over the last 24 hours is that a lot of the computer models are indicating a more northerly landfall in Florida, which means that this particular system will be going into a more favorable environment for rapid intensification as this eventually moves towards the state of Florida. Notice how many computer models, though, have this making landfall right around the Tampa Bay area. Now, this isn't locked in. We still have models that are still going a little bit further south, and if it goes further south, this will be a much weaker storm, but the majority of the models are bringing this towards Tampa Bay or even just north of Tampa, which would be a very catastrophic situation, especially if we're able to get storm surge that goes right into Tampa Bay. Now, this isn't a complete, locked in forecast right now. It's not 100% going to do something like that where it's catastrophic in Tampa, but we are starting to trend in that direction with the most recent computer model data. And here's a bunch of different computer models showing the intensity of what upcoming Hurricane Milton is going to do. Most models are between a category 1 and 4 hurricane upon landfall in Florida on Wednesday. There are still a few that are in tropical storm level, but that would be on a more contingent basis of this going towards the far southern part of Florida, like just west of Miami, for example. Latest National Hurricane Center forecast does indicate that this will become a hurricane by as early as Sunday night, if not by Monday morning, in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. Notice how slow it's going to be moving between now and Tuesday. It's not really going to go much of anywhere, but by the time we get into Tuesday morning, this will eventually start to speed up because of a jet streak back off to the north. That'll also help this to intensify. Currently, the forecast upon landfall in Florida is a very high-end category 2 hurricane. At the 5 p.m. advisory today, I would expect that they upgrade this to a major hurricane making landfall in Florida on Wednesday. The current thinking is that this will make landfall sometime Wednesday morning or during the early afternoon. We are going to have live coverage for this probably over the next several days, so make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon so you're notified with the latest updates on Milton. Once we go into Wednesday, this will impact much of central Florida and really a lot of the state, and then by Thursday, this moves into the Atlantic Ocean, which by the time it's in the Atlantic Ocean, it becomes more uncertain whether it'll go more towards South Carolina or if it'll go out to sea. I'm leaning towards this going more out to sea rather than going up the East Coast, but it will be something to monitor in terms of the trends over the next few days. The main takeaway from all this model data is that the consensus of this making landfall somewhere around Tampa is increasing, and this only backs it up. This is the GFS model between now and eventual landfall in Florida. As we go into Monday, it actually has this rapidly intensifying into a category 2 or 3 hurricane well in advance to making landfall in Florida, which if this happens, that is definitely not a trend that you want to see, because this would be able to basically be an intense hurricane almost no matter what when it makes landfall in Florida. By the time we go into Tuesday, it doesn't really have it intensifying much on Tuesday, and then eventually as we go into Wednesday, it starts to move towards the state of Florida as a major hurricane, making landfall near Tampa Bay. And if this happens, again, we are going to be talking about devastating to potentially even catastrophic impacts, including storm surge, hurricane force winds, and as well as the potential for flooding rainfall across much of central Florida. So this is obviously a very concerning trend. Now, granted, this is not the only scenario that can happen. We could still see this make landfall as a category 2, maybe even a category 1 hurricane if this decides to move further south. But again, the trend is not our friend at this point. It looks like that this is going to be a very concerning hurricane for Florida. Here's what we're looking at in terms of rainfall if the GFS model is correct, and we are going to be talking about the potential for significant rain accumulation. Many areas across central Florida, near and just north of I-4, could pick up anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of rain, and we could even see some spots pick up over 15 inches of rain out of this hurricane, despite it moving a little bit faster over the state of Florida. So again, very concerning trends at this point. The one good thing about this hurricane compared to what we had with Hurricane Helene is the wind field is expected to be much smaller, meaning hurricane force and tropical storm force winds will be much more confined. But where this makes landfall is crucial, because if it does make landfall near Tampa, that is going to bring this offshore flow right into the Tampa Bay area, and that would lead to significant storm surge, something that we've not seen in Tampa Bay really in our lifetime. So this is going to be something that we need to watch for extraordinarily closely if the landfall is somewhere near or just north of Tampa Bay. But just notice this wind field. It is significant. We're talking about hurricane force winds anywhere in that, brown shaded area and even in the yellow shaded area, but it's way more compact compared to what we had with Helene. Notice areas like Daytona Beach, Palm Bay, and Port St. Lucie not really dealing with much of wind by 11 a.m. around landfall on Wednesday. So that is the good news to this, but the bad news is that these hurricane force winds are expected to stay rather significant as it crosses the state of Florida. And if this is a category 3+ hurricane upon landfall, the wind is probably going to carry all the way to the east coast, all the way up I-4, especially if it makes more of an easterly path across the state of Florida. Now, this is one of the hurricane models. It is the HAFS-B model run, and these are very notorious for predicting hurricanes fairly accurately. And unfortunately, this hurricane model is showing potentially worst case scenario for Florida. Now, let's hope this changes. I'm really hoping we're not dealing with a major hurricane or even a hurricane in general for Florida, especially after Helene. But there is a solid chance that we could have 2 different major hurricanes within a 2-week time frame making landfall in Florida, and that would both be on the West Coast. We had Helene not even 2 weeks ago, and now we could have potentially Hurricane Milton making landfall as a major hurricane. This is what the HAFS-B model run shows by late Monday night. It already shows it at potentially a category 3 hurricane in the open Gulf of Mexico ocean waters, and it has it intensifying further as we go into Tuesday night, approaching Tampa Bay, Florida, and really just the west coast of Florida in general. This would be near category 5 intensity if this actually did happen. The one good thing that could happen before landfall, if this does become a major hurricane, is that there could be a buildup of wind shear across the west coast of Florida. And if that happens, there is a chance that this does eventually weaken as it approaches landfall in Florida Wednesday morning. Now, it's not expected to weaken by much if it does weaken, but it will weaken to the point where the winds might be a little bit less significant, maybe by 5 to 10 miles per hour. That's the potential weakening that we could see before landfall. But nonetheless, we are expecting a hurricane in Florida, and again, it's going to cross right across most of central and northern Florida, most likely, as we go throughout the day Wednesday, and then by Thursday, it goes right back into the Atlantic Ocean. Now, this is the GEFS ensemble members. A lot of them are on board with having a major hurricane developing in the Gulf of Mexico by late Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. But again, there is still a relatively large spread. There are some that are still showing this only as a tropical storm. On the flip side, there are many that are showing this at category 2, 3, even up to 4 intensity. So that's something that we need to monitor very closely. Landfall is expected to still be sometime Wednesday. There are some ensemble members that have it making landfall later on Wednesday. I could see it making landfall anytime during the day Wednesday. It could be very early Wednesday morning. It could also be very late Wednesday night, but I don't think it's going to make landfall Tuesday or Thursday at this point, at least in terms of the timing. In conclusion, Florida is going to be dealing with the potential for hurricane force winds, at least in some part of the state. Storm surge will be rather significant, perhaps even life-threatening, especially for those near Tampa or even just south of Tampa if the eye makes landfall north of Tampa. And then in addition to that, prolific rainfall is expected for a large chunk of Florida. Exactly where the worst rainfall is still a little bit uncertain, but we are starting to lean towards something near or just north of Interstate 4. Now, we are going to continue to post updates over the next several days, probably at least 1, if not 2 videos a day, and we'll more than likely start live updates tomorrow. So make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon down below so you're notified with the latest updates. It is going to be a very crazy week. We are going to be all over this, covering it for you, so just make sure you're subscribed, and we'll continue to post updates with the latest information on Milton. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.